Chapter 2. Egressus. Today is Monday. It's another time I must leave, and I'm flying to New York City. There's a hospital in Long Beach interested in a deal for 350 machines that watch people die more accurately. I stand in my open closet looking for my shoes. I packed them away last night, and yet they've made themselves scarce and missing from my luggage. Have you called Tommy back? My wife asks, turning over in bed. It's early. The children haven't begun yet. Sophia is the family's alarm clock. When she cries, it's time for everyone else's day to start. She's typically more like a rooster, shrieking as early as 5, but we really wore her out last night while playing. No, not yet. When are you? I don't know how long you expect. Please, Mary, I just haven't yet. I interrupt what I already know she's after. I calm my tone. I know. The kids really miss you. I miss you. I respond with the same sentiment. I kneel down and look under the pile of high heels and sandals to search for my shoes with no luck. I stand again and sit on the bed next to my wife. I begin to pet her frizzy bed-made hair. She's clearly upset, wanting to continue her plot for me to change jobs. She's tired of me being gone so often. The business has taken me further away for more extended amounts of time. I've secretly loved those particular details. But I do miss my children. I really do. I miss them and our far too few family nights. But the jobs are crucial. I think the boys took your shoes last night. Have you checked their room? I'll check. They don't want their daddy leaving. I know. The boys are sneaky. They're nothing but noise in the day, but apparently get by silently while I'm sleeping. What a horrifying thought. I walk to their room that's down the hall and on the other end of the house. Their soft breaths draw in the cool air in unison. I don't see my shoes on their floor or in their dressers. I look over their dimly lit beds. Richard has his back to me, and Eli seems to be holding something. I look closer in the dark lighting, and I see a slight reflection from the shiny brown shoe. I gently tug it from his tired fingers. He doesn't move. I assume that each boy has their own shoe. Richard will be more difficult. His back is turned, and he's probably cradling the filthy thing. He is. I was hoping not to wake them. I said goodbye last night, but I've got a flight to catch. My plane leaves in a little over an hour. The shoe's shape is apparent through the sheets. Richard was clever. He made every attempt to ensure I would wake him. No, Daddy, please stay. Shh, shh, shh. I snag the shoe from his grip and pet him with my other hand. I have to go. Eli lifts his head and looks around for his shoe, which I've already taken. Why? Why can't you work from home? Get a job like Mommy. Your mother's job is to be a mother. Someone has to make money for us, for y'all's food, for this house you live in. I bend down between them both. It's a man's job to hunt and provide. A long time ago, men would be gone far away looking for food. They'd travel to cities and sell, just like I do. If there was a war, they'd often go away for years even. Their eyes begin to open wider. History is exciting to them. Odysseus went to war for 10, and it took him just as long to return home. Daddy will only be gone for 4 days. We've got planes now. I won't be gone long at all. They like to think Daddy is off hunting or at war with Trojans. It's all romance and adventure to them. I love you, Dad, Richard says, reaching forward to hug me. Please, Eli begged. Don't take as long as Odysseus. I hug them both and we laugh. Now go back to sleep, boys. It's still very early. Wait for Mom to wake you all up. I leave them and silently pass by Sophia's closed door. careful not to make any noise. Sometimes, if the house remains quiet enough, she'll sleep until 8. It would be nice if Mary got the break. I do feel guilty leaving the kids entirely to her for such long periods of time. It's difficult, but she could always call in some grandparents. She doesn't like having them over to a dirty house. And by dirty, I mean the ceiling fans haven't been dusted this week, and there's 3 dirty glasses in the sink. She's very particular about cleanliness. Some may call her obsessive. I stopped by our bedroom once more on my way out. She's on her phone, likely reading through a blog of hers. The boys had your shoes, didn't they? Yes. I heard them rummaging around after you went to sleep. I thought their effort deserved the payoff. Sorry. I told them to go back to sleep. You should sleep longer. No, I think I'll get up for some coffee and laundry. I'm not sure I can fall back asleep in this empty bed anyway. 4 days. I'll be back in 4 days. Call Tommy. I leaned forward across the bed to give her a smooch. Her lips are warm, as she is still warm in the bed. The air is cold, and I think of how wonderful it would be to climb into the sheets again and nap for a while. I withdraw instead and pack my shoes along with my other things. Get my mother a coffee mug. Buy the kids something as well. Of course. I love you, Mary. I love you. I leave her to her morning of cleaning. My plane boards in 35 minutes, but really that's plenty of time. The Birmingham airport is dead always. It was supposed to have been the hub that Atlanta is, but the leadership here preferred quietness, I guess. I used to hate that about them when I was young. I wanted the thrill of liveliness in the city, but those things are overrated. Short security lines are much better. Driving 15 minutes across town at 90 miles per hour with zero traffic at 5 in the morning is so much better. I was always impatient and had a lead foot, even in a place that requires very little waiting for anything. It doesn't take long for me to find myself sitting at the desolate terminal. For the next few hours, my mind is free to wander. Tommy is a cousin of mine. He's recently started selling insurance and talks a lot about how easy it is and how awesome he thinks I'd be. He says they're frequently hiring, too, but there are no benefits. I'm an incredible salesman, so sufficient that my friends call me the Jew. There's not an ounce of Ashkenazi in me. I even had the DNA done for a bet they had. They still don't accept the results. They think I'm full of Jewish magic, as they call it. They say I use Talmud wizardry. I don't know anything about that. I'm just good at selling. But I don't want to change jobs. The insurance job does not have the same perks as mine does. It's a sort of catch-22, really. I hate leaving my family, but I love the opportunities it gives me. I get to visit so many different churches. I get to shake hands with all the LGBT promoting priests and all the other strange species of Jesuit, from the in-hiding to female priests advocates. They're treacherous, but they're the only ones that I ever confess to. My time to board has come. I have a carry-on. It's just a bag with my laptop in it, some leather journal I never actually write in, and holy water. Everything else got checked in. I take my place at a window seat on the plane out of habit. The aircraft is mostly empty. I don't even look out of the window hardly anymore. I used to love that as a kid. It's nice if I know to be looking for something. I've spotted Half Dome from the air once. I was proud of that one. The Grand Canyon was easy to see. Just look for Mars where Earth should be. Mary and the kids traveled with me on that trip. I didn't stretch my legs then like I do now. It was their first visit to the West Coast. It was pleasant, other than explaining every error of the people that live there. That actually pisses me off quite a lot. Why do all the paradises in this life become infested with the most degenerate people? Everywhere that's pretty and happens to have conservative inhabitants is a miserable sweat factory. Someone once joked that God gives the tolerable climates and paradises to the wicked, because they won't have that once they're done here. Maybe that's just true in America. I don't know. Good morning. I look up from my blank-paged journal. A tall man is packing his carry-ons into the overhead compartment. He's covered in dark black hair and has salt and peppered stubble over most of his red-brown face. Something is a bit distinct about him. I fly a lot. I'm unsure if he's someone that knows me or if he's an actual stranger. Perhaps we've shared a flight before. Good morning, I say. He sits down in the aisle across from mine. I don't know why, with the plane being so empty. He could sit literally anywhere else. It sort of frustrates me. You headed to the Big Apple today? He asks. We're to change planes in Milwaukee. It's strange he'd assumed that immediately. He puts me on edge. What if he's an agent of some sort? FBI? Something else, maybe? Should I know him from somewhere? I hope I'm not forgetting someone. Yes, actually. I have some work there in a hospital. Yourself? I relax a bit. There is no reason I should be anxious. I'm your typical salesman, a boring traveling salesman with a wife and 3 kids. Ah, I see. He fools with a bag of chips, looks at the ingredients, squinting his eyes in confusion. I'm headed there for some consulting. A friend of mine has been making a mess in his affairs. I'm going to talk some sense into him. Ah, well, hope it works out. Probably won't. He's a bonehead. The large man puts the unopened bag of chips away and brings out an eye mask. He puts it on his shaggy head over his eyes. Be a pal and wake me up if I don't. I return to the empty journal pages before me. The pen hovers over the spotless lines. I'm not afraid of him reading what I have to say. After all, he does have his eyes covered. But I'm also one of those freaks that made a secret alphabet when I was a kid, and happens to stick with it all these years. I guess someone could decipher it if they really tried, but they'd probably have to work at it for a while. Words like the and I are all attributed to a unique character. Those sorts of words make it easy to crack simple codes. When I was a kid, I spent so much time developing this little language that it made more sense to keep it. I had no intention of harboring any secrets, but I'm glad, because I have nothing but secrets, it seems. I begin to write, and there is no turning back now. The untouched journal has been dirtied with hints of my sins and my reasoning for them. I don't blame anyone. It's not anyone's fault. I guess you could blame me entirely, but I only exist to extinguish what should have already been snuffed out. In a just society, I wouldn't be in this position. The matters I deal with should be no business of my own, yet the world makes them so because the world isn't just. In the journal I started back years ago, it all begins in that same church that I found Jesus, that I found Mary. To Jesus through Mary is what a lot of Catholics say. I believe the same. Do not mistake my humor for disrespect. I just had 2 Marys in my case. I went back the following week to that church with the beautiful veiled girl. I sat in the same place as I did before, and so did she. We didn't speak. I went back the next week for a third visit, and the results were the same. I had the body of Christ many times when I shouldn't have had him. The fourth time I beat her to Mass, and I sat in her spot instead. She still sat a row ahead of me. I worked up more courage that fourth time. I nudged her shoulder while the rosary was being prayed before Mass. Excuse me. She turned and looked at me, her face partially out of sight from beneath the lace veil. Her eyes peered through to my very heart. She seemed almost frightened, or maybe startled. Do you mind if I follow along with you? I smile. I'm sort of new, and after several weeks I still don't know what's going on. I guess that's all right. That was the first time I heard her voice. Previously, I had only heard it in unison with others during the prayers. It had been like tasting the icing on a cinnamon roll. You know it's sweet, but the flavor is lost with the rest of the pastry. Before, her voice was drowned out in all the others, but now I could hear it for what it was, like dipping your finger in the icing and tasting it directly. Her voice was delightful, with a warmth to it that melted into every word. Don't feel like you have to. No more talking. Come sit with me. I sat with her and watched her pale fingers with baby blue painted nails. They led my eyes across the Latin. Then I watched when she revealed the English translation on the other side. It came time for communion. Are you Catholic? She asked quickly. I was already standing behind her, waiting for her to lead to the Eucharist. I don't know, I guess, I said. I didn't want to turn her off. I didn't want to be a heretic, heathen, or whatever name they had for me. I liked Catholicism. I had really enjoyed some of the saints over those weeks between Masses. The questions seemed so definite, as if I had skipped over some things that no one had informed me of. Stay here, don't receive, she demanded, as she turned to leave. I was disappointed. I felt like a dog thrown out of the warmth of a bed. Did I have fleas? Was it my odor? She looked back to make sure I stayed. I didn't know to kneel either without her. I looked around for the guidance of others now that she had left me. I kneeled, seeing a man across from me doing so. The same dreadful kneelers. I waited for the communion to be over, kneeling for what seemed an eternity. Good grief, my knees were uncomfortable on those hard kneelers. They clearly had a cushion to them, at least by the sight of them, but it felt similar to pressing your knees into the corner edge of a 2x4. I looked around, hoping to find someone in discomfort, but saw no one. Children were kneeling, old men, and morbidly obese women that seemed to have absolutely no problem with the horrible little kneelers. I felt humiliated. Was I soft? I was. She returned to our pew, kneeling, and began praying silently. What marbled face was she praying to? Which tortured saint was it that had their ears held out for her? Was it the Mother of God? How does one get the audience of hers? Would she not be busy? Curiosity was my prescription for whatever pain those damn kneelers caused. I hadn't known then, but the Eastern Catholics stood during their liturgy. I would have much preferred standing for 2 hours than this discomfort. The Mass ended shortly afterward. I was in luck that Sunday. Apparently, there was a lunchtime feast waiting to be served in the basement. I didn't know beforehand. The priest had mentioned it, but I wasn't paying attention to him. Are you hungry? She asked. Yes, I lied. I was hoping it was an invitation for more time with her. Maybe I would learn a name. I would acquire the name to beg God for. I'm Simon. My name's Mary, she smiled. Ding, ding, ding. The comms alert. I stopped writing in the journal. I had covered several pages in the silly scribbles of mine. Please remain seated and check that your belts are fastened. We are preparing to land. Do not remove seatbelts until the indicator that's lit above you turns off. We circle Milwaukee for 15 minutes. The bearded pal beside me seems to drool. It's easy to wake someone. It's difficult to wake someone that's drooling. Ding, ding, ding. The seatbelt indicator turns off. Welcome to Milwaukee. Thanks for flying.